How important is content to your website? I'd say it's very important, but on today's show, I'll tell you why I say that. Also, have you ever thought about paying a flat fee for a web hosting account to cover the rest of your life? On today's show, I'll also let you know where you can make that happen. Add 1 helping of Martha Stewart and 2 cups of web hosting geek. Stir well, and you'd have the Web Hosting Show, podcast number 32, which is now on the air.
I paid for this, Mike. By God, I want to use it.
Hello and welcome yet again to the Web Hosting Show, the one and only voice of the web hosting world. This show is sponsored each and every week by the fine folks over at Web Hosting Chat. Web Hosting Chat is your #1 place for web hosting discussions. Now who am I? Why, I am the man, the myth, the icon, the legend even of the web hosting world, Mitch Keeler. Now, for the people who haven't listened to this show before, this might be your first time tuning in, I want to tell you what it's all about. This show is like the unofficial handbook to the web hosting industry. There's a lot of things that go on out there that confuse people about web hosting, data centers, bandwidth, disk space, it's all a bunch of jumbled up crap for the most part. A lot of things don't make sense to the normal Joe or Jane out there on the street, and that's where I come in. Here on the Web Hosting Show, I like to make sense of all the jargon, and I'll tell you, not from web hosting guru to person, but from person to person, how the industry works. We have news, we have your questions answered, we have it all right here on this very podcast. I have one heck of a good show for you today, but I'd also like to tease a little thing that I'm going to upload on Thursday. This Thursday, I'll have a very special treat for all of you listening. Right here on this very podcast, we will be speaking with George A. Roberts IV of HostingCon 2006. I'll be playing a little sample right now so you can get a little tease of what's going to happen on Thursday. So let's see, I've got to push the right button here, and there we go. What would you say you're looking forward to the most for this next hosting con?
I think me personally, from the aspect of the conference producer, I'm looking forward to this year because 2005 was our first conference, not only the first hosting con, but it was the first conference that my company, Interjunctures, ever produced, and it was a learning experience for us. We basically had to build all of the systems and all of the registration stuff from scratch. We had to sort of, learn the ropes of dealing with the various vendors and just overall running of a trade show like this. So I think one of the things that I'm personally looking forward to is actually feeling a little more comfortable with the whole process. And also, we're really happy about the fact that we're doubling the size of our facilities and the number of people that we can handle. So I think just all around it's going to be a better and smoother conference this year because we have a better handle on some of the, the scheduling and sort of the little things that maybe as an attendee you don't see, but those of us sort of behind the scenes realized that, we needed to work on a little bit for this year.
So do you want to be able to get a hold of me just like George did? All you need to do is drop me an email at mitch@mitchkeeler.com. I'm here to answer any questions you might have, or I'm here to take any feedback, comments, complaints you might be harvesting inside of you as well. Now that we have all the formalities out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some web hosting news.
You're listening to Mitch Keeler's Web Hosting Show.
This podcast can be found on LearnOutLoud.com's podcast directory, which is located on the web at podcast.learnoutloud.com.
The LearnOutLoud.com podcast directory features the very best in technology podcasts that you can learn from on a wide variety of topics, including web hosting, which Mitch has pretty much got covered.
Take it away, Mitch.
The web hosting news and headlines are brought to you each and every week by Web Host Magazine and Buyer's Guide. The Web Host Magazine and Buyer's Guide is the place to go to get all of the latest web hosting news from around the globe. cPanelBackup.com launches unique backup service. cPanelBackup.com, a provider of automated backup solutions, announced today that they had released its line of cPanel Backup products, providing low-cost, reliable, and remotely hosted backups of cPanel-powered websites. Now, my take on this, I haven't tried the tools yet from cPanelBackup.com, but I do have to say that the idea, it sounds very promising. One thing I wish and hope that it would do is if everything's managed right, it would make things easier whenever you're moving from web host to web host, as long as those two web hosts have cPanel as their kind of back-end control panel solution. cPanel.net launches its first ever Shoutcast hosting control panel. Up until now, the far majority of Shoutcast hosting providers have been forced to set up Shoutcast servers manually. The account setup, file importation, radio configuration, and so forth used to be programmed in by hand by a non-user-friendly SSH control. cPanel enables Shoutcast hosting providers to set up Shoutcast servers in seconds and manage the accounts with an unprecedented level of control. Well, my take on this, Shoutcast used to be a bigger buzzword before the word, podcasting came around. I do have to say, though, anything that would make this process easier and where more people could use it is a welcome comfort for sure. And a lot of podcast directories out there are streaming content as well, so maybe Shoutcast's future isn't that dim as I thought. 94% of consumers believe that the internet is harmful to children. According to a recent published survey commissioned by Zone Labs and conducted by Harris Interactive, the vast majority of consumers today believe that the internet poses a threat to children, especially from online predators and pornography. The survey shows that 94% of consumers believe that the internet is a threat to children. 61% cited predators in chat rooms as the biggest threat, with an additional 16% citing pornographic websites. Now, my take on this, of course the internet is going to be harmful to children if you sit them in front of it each and every day and say, hey, I'll see you in a few hours. The internet is a great learning tool as well. You've got to remember that. And if folks would stop treating their computer and video game systems like babysitters for their little rugrats, I bet you it would be a lot less scary for those folks out there. Now, do you have some web hosting news you'd like to share? Make sure you send it to me at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com, and I'll try to get it onto the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show. Every so often, you need just a quick nugget of web hosting knowledge. The Web Hosting Tip of the Week is brought to you by my other website, Mitchellanius. You can find it at mitch.lockergnome.net. Now, today, I don't just have a web hosting tip for you, but I have a search engine optimization tip for you as well. Now, remember, you always have to slip in a few more keywords into your website, into various places to get, well, I don't want to go into the whole keyword stuffing thing. That's like a whole nother end of the spectrum, and it's a very bad idea. But dropping in a few more descriptive titles for pictures or links, that's a little bit more of what you should be doing. In some cases, you're making things easier for folks out there with adding a little bit more description about your links or your pictures that may be on the website. Now, like I said before, I don't believe that you should stuff each one of your links or pictures with too many keywords, though. Remember, you have to keep the titles and the alt tags for the images relevant to what they are describing. So how do you find the right balance? That much is pretty much still up in the air. It's all up to personal opinion. Here is an example of how I would handle a situation, though. Now, say you have a website or logo on the top of a web page, like most places do. Now, instead of just putting the word logo in as the alt text kind of thing for the image, try putting in like mywebsite.com, your home for stuff that I like. This way you get a few more keywords in there, and you get one more place to mention, what it is your website is and what it does. And to search engine spiders, text is text, and they really can't tell the difference. So look over your own websites and decide how you could use a few more keywords here and there to do a little sprucing up when it comes to editing these kind of tags. Just remember to do so responsibly. Now, do you have a web hosting tip that you'd like to share with me? Make sure you email it to me at mitch@mitchkeeler.com, and hey, who knows? It could be on the next edition of the Web Hosting Show right here on webhostingshow.com. The Web Hosting Show's Deals and Steals are brought to you each and every week by allhostingdeals.com. Allhostingdeals.com is your number one place to find web hosting offers that might just be too good to be true. This week's hosting deal comes from Globat Web Hosting. They're offering hosting with 7,500 megabytes of web space, 100 gigabytes of data transfer, 7,500 pop email accounts, 24-hour FTP and control panel access, web-based email, MS Front Page 2002, Flash, MySQL, PHP 4, Perl 5, server side includes web statistics, tutorials, and more. Now, what are they wanting for all this? What is the price on this web hosting package? $9.95. Now that sounds pretty good to me. Do you have a web hosting deal or offer that's too good to be true? Make sure you email me at mitch@mitchkeeler.com, and I'll tell the folks all about it on the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show, the voice of the web hosting world. All of my own web hosting thoughts, views, and ideas are brought to you by Data Center Talk. Data Center Talk is the best set of forums on planet Earth to talk about web hosting data centers. Now, can you buy web hosting for life? You can pay $299 for a lifetime of web hosting from a company. Anytime I hear that kind of jargon talk around, anytime I hear a web hosting company selling web hosting for life, it always, it alarms me a little bit. No matter who the company is, and no matter what they stand for, and no matter who you are, you always have to remember one simple rule. Even if everything works out and the company's legit and everything's legit, and you are, totally in this plan, you're not buying a web hosting account for your lifetime. You're buying a web hosting account for the company's lifetime. The company could go out of business tomorrow, and that money you sank down into the web hosting account could be gone. It could be vanished. Woof! It's gone. Thin air. Now, the web hosting company that's making the offer this time around is Brinkster. Now, to give them credit, it sounds like they're doing everything by the book. I read the terms of service agreement for the actual plan, and it sounds like everything's pretty much legit. But here's one thing that I found in the terms of service that I thought was interesting. This offer is only available for new accounts. The terms shall be for either the lifetime of the individual or 60 years, whichever length of time is shorter. Corporate entities, trusts, and organizations may not participate in this offer. If such a party signs up for this promotion, this offer will be null and void without any refund or credit due by Brinkster. Who uses web hosting or one web hosting account that long? I mean, sure, we're all searching for the web host that's right for us, the dream web host out there. But getting yourself tied up with a web hosting account for life, that might not be the right way to go about it. In my opinion, you should sign up for the shortest time period possible, usually by month. And then after that, if you're still happy with that web host, then go ahead and sign up for a longer contracted period. Let's say like by a year or by 5 years or something like that, once you know that you're happy with the company. But right out of the box, I would never sign up for a lifetime account. That's just way too much money to be blowing on a company that I might not be happy with later down the road. Now, the folks over at Brinkster are free to come on the show and try to sell me on this idea, but right now I can't say I'd jump in with both feet unless I was totally sure I was going to be happy with Brinkster's hosting quality. Now, no matter how flashy or how great your website looks, if you don't have good content inside that website, you're like in a boat without a paddle. I cannot count the number of times I've said that content is key to a website's success. Too many times to count, really. There are other things that you should know about website content, though, and you may have not thought of before. The thing to remember is to make every single word on your web page count. Don't fill your website with a lot of fluff that has hardly any substance at all. The one reason that people visit a website is to get information. Where is your information? If somebody has to ask that kind of a question to you or ask it while looking at your website, then you might start to worry. You've got to have content there for the people. Make it easy to understand. Now, the next thing I want to tell you about is to make sure that you use a spell checker on these pages. As a writer and, well, a podcaster now, but I spend most of my time in the week writing, you'd probably expect that, I have a great mastery of the human language. That's not so. The funny thing is that I love to write, but I am the world's worst speller. That's when your friend and mine, the spell checker, comes into play. Now I no longer have to worry about sounding like a total idiot when I'm writing about something that I feel that strongly about. Well, I might still sound like an idiot from time to time, but at least I spell the word idiot right. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of websites out there that have words misspelled, and it just doesn't make you seem that, well-knowing in the subject that you're talking about if every other word's misspelled. Now, the last little tip here I want to give to you is make sure that you're writing with a passion. It's fairly easy to tell when somebody is writing about something they have no clue whatsoever about. Make sure that you cover topics that are interesting and that, that you're really into as well. If you're working on a rather dull website or a dull kind of, content or substance that you're trying to add into that website, try to find something about it that will make it sound a little more interesting. I mean, nobody likes writing a manual about the most boring thing in the world. That's why you've got to find, even if it's not that exciting, the most exciting thing about that topic and highlight it as much as possible. And I'm not saying that everything can be made into an exciting content for a website or an exciting article for a website, but, try your hardest to make your content interesting and to write with a passion about it. Write about things that you know about. Work in your own personal stories into your content if you have to. Now, as you know, the 31st of October is Halloween. Halloween this year also falls on a Monday, so I'd like to do something special for my favorite holiday of the year. As you know, this show comes out every single Monday, so I want to have some kind of special web hosting show for Halloween. But I'm not really sure what I should cover. I mean, maybe I should do it over web hosting horror stories. I mean, you tell me. Tell me what you want to hear. Drop me an email at mitch@mitchkeeler.com, and I'll see what I can do. Next week, I might give you a few options from stuff that people have sent me for, I want you to send me some content about something that would be relative to Halloween and web hosting. I know that's not very easy to do, but, try to come up with some ideas and let me know. No matter what happens, I can promise you that the Halloween edition of the web hosting show should be very, very special and definitely one you should be checking out. Now, my birthday is on October 17th, and it also falls on a Monday, so maybe I should do a special birthday boy edition of this podcast. You tell me, Mitch@mitchkeeler.com, send me your thoughts. Now, do you have a web hosting topic of discussion you'd like to hear me cover right here on the Web Hosting Show? Then make sure you send it to me at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com, and I'll try to get it onto the very next edition of this podcast, the Web Hosting Show, the one and only voice of the web hosting world. All of the Web Hosting Show's design help is sponsored by BrowseHost.com. BrowseHost is the most comprehensive web hosting directory out there today. And speaking of BrowseHost, their forums have grown rapidly over there. They're up to 2,200 or more registered members. Very impressive indeed, guys. Keep up the good work. Now, this week's website that needs a little help is Nextbox Hosting Solutions. First things first, I like the blue and green colors. They go well together, and my eyes don't feel like they should be revolting out of my head. I like the fact that you're making all the terms of service easy to find, but I'm not sure if the word services really tells me, hey, that's where they keep their web hosting plans. Also, on the services page, I'd like to see a little bit more text. Right now you have a lot of graphics there and a lot of links, but there's not a lot of meat and potatoes right there on that page. Give me a few more, give me some more details about your hosting packages. Give me a little more information to chew over before I decide to sign up with you. You might also add a few more pictures to the website as well. The nice lady with the headset on is good for one page, like the support page, but you don't want her on every single page. You might end up confusing folks and they won't know which page they're really on because they keep seeing the same picture on every page. But for the most part, it looks like you have all your ducks in a row, and I wish you the best of luck. Do you need some help with your website design? Would you like me to just let you know what you could do here and there to make your web presence that much better? Make sure you email me at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com, and I'll try to get your questions answered and your website reviewed on the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show. The Web Hosting Website of the Week is brought to you by Banner's World. Banner's World is the #1 place to visit to get all of your website graphics, banners, and designs done. The Web Hosting Website of the Week for this week is YourHostSucks.com. Now, I found YourHostSucks.com a long time ago, right whenever I first started in the whole web hosting industry, and I've got to tell you, it's a breath of fresh air in a world where review websites all pretty much look the same. They do an important service out there to the world, and they do it well. What service do they provide? They give us all a place to complain about our web hosting experiences with one company or another. Sometimes folks just need a place to go and vent their problems with the hosting industry, and Your Host Sucks gives us all a place to do that. So go visit YourHostSucks.com and let them know that the Web Hosting Show sent you there. Do you have a website that deserves to be the next web hosting website of the week? Make sure you send it to me at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com, and I'll try to get it onto the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show right here on WebHostingShow.com. Well, that's it for this week's show. Make sure that you send me all your feedback, thoughts, suggestions, and ideas to my voicemail account on Skype, Mitch Keeler, no space in between. Write me an email at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com or post on the Web Hosting Show fan forums over at WebHostingChat.com. Next week we'll be doing more of the same, and make sure you come back on Thursday to get that interview with George Roberts from HostingCon 2006. I am Mitch Keeler, and you've been listening to the one and only voice of the web hosting world. Yeah, you got it right. This is the Web Hosting Show.
This show is a proud member of the TechPodcast.com network. Find out more about this show and others at www.techpodcast.com. Tech Podcast. If it's tech, it's here. If it's tech, it's here. If it's tech, it's here. If it's tech,